Yeah, I get right to the racks. Then I make that shit back. Run up on me, get shot in the back.
Jerry TV in the beautiful video Scott channel, man. Back in the day. Dang, stay positive. We had Asian boys versus everyone. Everything you need to know. Wow.
All right, that's a lot. We need to know everything.
We need to know everything. Jerry TV. I feel like we haven't really covered the Asian side of Cali. Let us know what music we should do. Todo, everything, right?
Yeah, from A to Z, Z to A. If it's your first time, get it Asian.
Oh, that was horrible.
Yeah, thanks, bro.
Alright. Is Jerry TV here?
Yeah, if it's your first time tuning in, subscribe to the channel, request the content, and then we react. That is my 900th time saying that. Subscribe to the channel.
Probably like
subscribe to the channel, request the content, and we react. This is the guy right here, Jerry TV. This is his channel.
Murder Dogs, nigga.
He's 15 years old, man. He's 15 years old. I'm 67. It's your first time tuning in, you know what to do. Follow him on Instagram, JVTV. Follow me, Pops React. If you want me to react to some of your music, let me know. Hit me up, Pops React. We got a Discord below.
That's how we're too, man.
No more talk.
Another episode of Swamp Stories. This time we cover a whole new side of California, a part of society that many people don't know about. This is going to be an interesting one, trust me. But for it all to make sense, we have to go deep into history. Before we start off, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe if you haven't already.
Jeremy TV, thanks.
Let's start off way back in the 1970s in Southeast Asia. If you're unfamiliar with the area, it's where Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos, and the Philippines are located. At the time, Cambodia was split between two parties, the first being Khmer Rouge, which were the Communist Party led by Pol Pot, one of the worst humans to ever walk the earth. He was so bad that even 40 years later, his name is never uttered by Cambodians. It's that serious. He absolutely devastated his country, and he's known to be responsible for exterminating 1/4 of all Cambodians.
Yo!
Yes, you heard that correctly. 1 in 4 Cambodians lost their life because of this man. He made up insane rules, like anyone who wore glasses had to lose their life. That was one of his rules.
Nah, that's cat.
Well, he teamed up with Vietnam's Communist Party called the Viet Cong.
Well, there's a guy with glasses right there.
Oh my God.
Nah, I don't believe that. Is that true, Pops?
I don't know. I'm not familiar with that.
Seriously. Well, he teamed up with Vietnam's Communist Party called the Viet Cong, and they absolutely devastated Southeast Asia. They would also be funded by China, Russia, and Cuba. On the other side, there was the Kingdom of Cambodia. These were the people fighting for their life. The US would side with them and help them fight off Pol Pot. Well, it would last 8 years, 8 of the worst years in human history. Once the war was ending and Pol Pot officially took over, the US would help Cambodians who needed to escape. They would bring in thousands of refugees and they flooded into America with absolutely nothing.
Not
but first, the US would bring them to Thailand for 5 years.
Right?
Not if it was Donald Trump. Donald Trump would be like, no!
No.
We're gonna get all you lazy Americans to do all the hard work.
With absolutely nothing. But first, the US would bring them to Thailand for 5 years. That's where they would, quote, teach them the American way of life before they officially moved over.
In the past 10 years, nearly 115,000 Cambodians have left their homeland to come to this country. Adapting to a totally new culture is never easy.
Greg Jennings.
But some of the refugees are getting a head start at a camp along the Cambodian-Thai border. ABC's Jim Laurie has been on special assignment.
Is that a wig?
Probably not.
They will soon be residents of places like California, Minnesota, or Virginia. Cambodians who've waited up to 5 years in refugee camps in Thailand have been finally screened and accepted and are now being taught what to expect in a totally different way of life.
When you finish, stand up. When you finish, you
Yo, they know how to use a toilet?
Yeah, that's pretty cool, man.
That's crazy.
No, yeah, that's not common. A lot of places don't have urinal stalls and stuff like that.
For sure.
This is pretty cool, though, that they prepped them.
Where do you watch TV? I watch TV.
The biggest problem for today's Cambodian refugees is their lack of education. Nearly 30% are illiterate, even in their own language. And that will make learning the skills needed in America all the more difficult.
The refugees here are not under many illusions. They've seen a lot of misery in Cambodia these last 15 years. He knows it'll be better in America, but it won't be easy.
Oh, not easy, I think.
For sure.
Very hard, I think. But I cannot go back
so
to my
much
country. I have to go to America.
After escaping awful conditions in their homeland, they were blessed to be in America. but they ended up in some of the most dangerous places in California. At first, they would be robbed and taken advantage of being new to the area and the language, but then they would band together in resistance and form their own gangs for protection. The streets learned quickly why these guys were nothing to mess with. They had faced way tougher opposition back in their homeland, and trust me, they were not scared of Americans. These guys were some of the most fearless that American streets had ever seen. But before we get into all that, let me run the intro.
Subscribe it. Subscribe it. Subscribe it. Subscribe it. Subscribe. 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 Subscribe.
TV.
Subscribe to J-Ray what?
TV.
Southeast Asians were a small minority in majority Hispanic and black neighborhoods, so two Filipino brothers started a group called the Asian Boys.
Wow.
Marvin Mercado, who goes by Shy Boy, and his brother Pierre Mercado founded them in 1990. They were made up of Filipinos, Cambodians, and Vietnamese families. At first, it was for protection, but then they began getting involved in serious crime.
Another big story tonight, Asian gangs and how they're thriving here in California. Authorities say Asian gangs will be America's dominant organized crime force in 15 years. California could be the hardest hit.
In the 1990s, they became notorious. Then things got worse when they started beefing. That brings me to WAING, one of the most notorious gangs in American history. They were founded in 1968 by Chinese immigrants in San Francisco's Chinatown.
Wow.
They became the Asian Boys' first rival. Remember that WAING was already established and powerful while Asian Boys were just starting. They wanted to make a name for themselves and test out the big dogs. It would all start on December 3rd, 1993, El Monte, California. The ABZ were at a pool hall kicking back and playing pool. This was their meeting grounds, and this was their place where they were known to be all the time. Well, WAING arrives at the pool hall 20 deep. That's when ABZ member Leah Mech gets up and starts boasting in front of them. He walks in front of them and flashes out his piece on them. He tries to intimidate them, but then he makes a big mistake. He turns his back on WAING member named Yellow Dog. That's when Yellow Dog slams him to the ground. WAING began to drag Leah Mech out of the pool hall, but that's when an ABZ whips out and tries to fire at them, but he jams up. WAING strips down Leah Mech and tries to steal his strap. They chase him down and put two in his head. This would kick off what they called the Summer of Madness. That's because the summer of 1994 was filled with battles. Well, ABZ knew they needed to grow in numbers if they wanted to be as powerful as their rivals. And that's exactly what they did. And along the way, they gained new rivals and new alliances as well. They began associating with the Crips, so much so that they became a part of them. Their founders, Pierre and Marvin Mercado, ended up running off to the Philippines with hundreds of thousands of dollars. They had fake identities and hid there for 11 years until they were caught and sent back to America. Now they're serving life sentences.
Yo, 11 years? That's pretty solid.
Yeah, wow. Damn, they got comfortable.
Damn, 11 years
That's what
though?
sucks. Though. Like when you're on a run, like
You forget about that shit, right?
well, after a decade,
11 years.
after like 5-6 years, you got to think you're good, right? You start slipping, you start calling back home.
Wow.
If I'm on the run, I ain't calling you no more.
Mercado, a former member of the notorious Asian Boys gang that terrorized Southern California in the mid-90s, was found guilty. Prosecutors said that Mercado, along with his brother Marvin, who founded the Asian Boys gang, went on a violent rampage during the mid-90s. The Mercado brothers avoided prosecution by going to the Philippines and took on fake identities until they were captured in 2007. Pierre's brother Marvin was convicted and sentenced to 8 life sentences last year.
Wow.
Well, that brings me to the modern day. Different groups within the Southeast Asian community began associating with both sides, red and blue. It kind of became neighborhood based. For example, in Long Beach, rapper Stupid Young is an Asian boy and a Crip. And up in Stockton, MB Nell is the same way. But for this episode, we stay in Stockton. Stockton is split between two rival neighborhoods, South Stockton and Lewis Park. South Stockton, but more specifically West 8th Street, is an Asian Crip neighborhood. Although they fit under the umbrella, they call themselves MB for Muddy Boys. Let me introduce you to MB Nell, Stockton's biggest rapper. He grew up around Matty Harrell Park, right in the middle of Asian Crip territory. His parents immigrated from the Philippines and he lived in a house with 3 other families. His parents wanted him to go to college and be successful, but his environment was so rough that it led him a different path. Despite his parents' efforts, he joined the neighborhood gang at age 14.
Wow.
That's when life would get serious for him.
Right?
One day, at age 14, he would be at Matty Harrell Park hanging out with his friends. And that's when a car would pull up and start letting off at them. MB Nell would run and thankfully be untouched. He wasn't in it alone though. He rolled with his close friend and rapper TC Low. MB Nell and TC Low grew up like they were family. TC Low grew up down the street from him, surrounded by the same environment. But for him, it was closer to home. Literally at home. His father was a big factor in the streets.
Rows and rows of slot machines found inside a Stockton home now sit in front of an evidence storage unit at the Stockton Police Department.
You know, throughout my 20 years of law enforcement here in the city of Stockton, this is the first time that I've ever seen this many illegal gambling machines set up at a residence.
Stockton officers from the gang unit, parole, and task force went to this Stockton home on South San Joaquin Street as part of an ongoing investigation. That's where they say they found 38-year-old Benedict Carolino.
Nah, another one of money, bro.
Getting money. And the Asians love to gamble. When you go to the casino, they be hitting the slot machines and the baccarat and all that.
They say they found 38-year-old Benedict Carolino.
Wow. That's pretty impressive.
Another one of his friends is Joe Mari. He's from South Stockton as well. But unlike Nell and TC, he didn't have parents around at all. Moving from house to house, Joe Mari had to take his own path in life, and he joined the street life. MB Nell made him come to the studio with him and work on music. That's how they all three blew up together. All three of them are of Filipino descent. Just wanted to mention that before someone in the comments gets mad that I didn't do it. Now let's talk about their rivals. The Lewis Park Bloods. On the west side of Stockton, you have a neighborhood called Lewis Park. It was settled by mostly Cambodian immigrants that began affiliating with the Bloods in the area, and that's how that came to be. The neighborhood is cut off by water and a freeway. That's why locals call themselves island babies. The whole neighborhood is basically family. Regardless of race, they all rock together and for each other. Lewis Park is headlined by the rapper Bounce Back Meek. He blew up after his hit song Lay Down.
You gotta do it.
He also has a controversy with Stupid Young because Stupid Young allegedly stole his song. It's a weird situation. I've never seen anything like it. Meek makes a song with a beat that he leased. Then Stupid Young buys the exclusive rights to the beat and then raps the same hook as Meek. Then what's even more odd is that Stupid Young says that Meek is in the wrong. He said that he should have never been rapping over a Stupid Young type beat in the first place.
Yo,
I don't know what
he just backdoored him, bought the beat.
Gangster.
That nigga bought the beat.
Gangster. He shouldn't be rapping over my kind of beat style anyway.
Stupid Young just knows the business, bro. Wow. Because he bought the beat. So when you buy a beat, you could take somebody's song down.
Jugger on the beat.
Wow, that's crazy.
He said that he should have never been rapping over a Stupid Young type beat in the first place. I don't know what that's all about, but let me know in the comments if any of that made
Asian
any
on the
sense.
hate crime.
Regardless, Lewis Park was featured on Hood Vlogs recently, which brought them a lot of notoriety. Let me put it like this. These guys on either side are no joke. They're with all the activities, which was proven in 2016. 2016 would be a rough year for Lewis Park. That's because California's Attorney General Kamala Harris launched something called the Operation Bloodline. She was granted $9 million to take them down, and it would only take her 11 months to complete the job. She would arrest 52 of them at once, which would temporarily dismantle the gang. They were found responsible of 3 bodies, many attempts, and all kinds of other charges. Although law enforcement took down the older generation, the young guys are right back out there filling in their shoes. After all this is going on in Lewis Park, South Stockton is having their own internal affairs. It's 2019 and MB Nell, TC the Low, and Joe Mari began blowing up like crazy. Everything seemed like it was all good from the outside looking in, but that would be the furthest thing from the truth. TC Low, who MB Nell used to see as a little brother to him, begins hanging out in North Stockton with a different set. Now mind you, it's not a rival area, but they felt like he bailed out on them. He started riding with his new squad and didn't look back. Now there's no telling why he left them. He could have had a great reason, who knows. Things would all fall apart in summer 2019 when TC Low would get arrested for robbery. He would get out after only 1 month, and that caused MB members to raise an eyebrow. One MB member would accuse him of snitching to get out.
Yo.
Then word would get around, and these days everyone hops on the bandwagon. Well, it turns out there was no validity to the claims, and there was no proof that he actually said anything. TC Lowe and his North Stockton associates would now have problems with MB Nell and his crew, and things would turn dark. February 22nd, 2020. MB Nell has a show in the Bay Area. TC Lowe knows where MB Nell lives, of course, because they grew up on the same block.
Yeah.
While TC Lowe, whose real name is Lawrence Carolino, decides to sit outside MB Nell's mom's house all night until he would return home. When he gets home, TC hops out of his car and lets off 22 times at him.
Yo.
MB Nell ducks for cover and makes it out of the situation safely. Well, in August, MB Nell would go on Vlad TV and talk about the situation. What he didn't know is that the feds had their phones tapped the entire time. They were tracking everybody for months. They were collecting as much evidence as they could. The feds would keep everything a secret until 2 months after the Vlad interview.
A months-long gang sweep in
wild.
Stockton leads to more than 30 arrests. Police dubbed it Operation Kryptonite Takedown. After serving 55 search warrants, investigators arrested 34 suspected gang members.
TC Lowe would be arrested for the shooting of MB Nell, but MB Nell would be arrested as well. His charges would be less serious though. They would find some stuff in his possession during the warrants, but it wouldn't be anything that serious. Well, TC Lowe would get no mercy from the judge and he would get a 15-year sentence. Old friends became enemies that quickly. MB Nell grew up calling TC Lowe's dad his uncle. Thank goodness that it didn't end as badly as it could have, but regardless,
15 years for attempted murder is kind of high, right? We see people get 8 years for attempted murder, 7 years. It just depends, I guess, like what gun you use and also like how many times, because he did it off 22
so many
shots.
things, you know, so many factors.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How much
Premeditated, too.
Did he cop out to this? Did he negotiate this deal? You know what I mean? There's a lot of factors, a lot of criminal shit that I don't know.
Yeah, because ASAP Rocky, like it was news that he just took down a deal, which would be 180 days in jail, which is 6 months or something like that, and then he also has to do like 5 years to 7 years probation.
Yeah, but his wife is a billionaire.
Yeah.
Don't forget his wife is a billionaire. ASAP Rocky's wife is a billionaire. Money talk, BS walks, y'all.
I'm just saying, that's kind of crazy.
Sad situation. Well, MB Nell would get released, and now he's out making music and blowing up more than ever before. MB Nell
Yo, that
and
Asia
Stupid
market's
Young are
crazy.
like,
He be in Asia. MB Nell don't even be around.
He's out the way. He's smart. He out the way.
We gotta do Bounce Back Beat Meet too. Jerry TV.
We out of here.
Peace.
And I know how it gets, so I gotta stay low, now move my knot. I don't trust no nigga, I don't trust no man, ain't no friends, everybody get shot. You never know how nigga gon' throw, I'm hitting the flow with a couple of shots. You better move, you better duck.